In this video, we're going to take a look at a green ink by Rohrer and Klingner Verdura. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also down in the description is a link to the green ink playlist, so if this isn't the right green for you, you can go ahead and check that one out. I'm sure you'll find a green that's good there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen. It does shade. You see it going from lighter to darker constantly through the Klingner. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen. It does shade. Brown goes lighter to darker to lighter. Quick is a very dark word where over goes lighter to darker, 4 seconds to dry. Medium is a little bit lighter than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading. In quick goes darker to lighter to darker, fox goes lighter to darker, jumps goes lighter to darker, 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show decent color variation. It's better in the medium, and it was better in the medium. And the smear test you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Diplomat Arrow with a broad nib was inked up, used for day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We have no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shading. The extra fine is a little bit darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does shade fairly well as quick goes dark to light to dark. Fox goes dark to light to dark. Lazy starts as a mid-tone and becomes a bit lighter at the Y, 7 seconds to dry. Medium is the darkest tone on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. 23 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation, and we do get some there. The medium shows none, but we got, the medium shows some, but we got none. And the smear test, I don't think you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see a very bright green at the bottom of this that has pushed its way up, and above that, a not quite as bright blue, which is really what's helping this ink have so much of its nice shading. The one on the right is allowed to dry for 10 minutes before it's dunked into water, and the thing is, you don't notice at all a difference between the two of them. I really don't think this is going to be very resistant of an ink, but something I'm just noticing right now looking at it again that I'm going to point out is in the middle of the left one, it seems like there's a little bit of a yellow showing through, and it feels like on the left half of the right one, it looks like there's a little bit. This might not be a green and blue. This might actually be a yellow and blue. I think this is a yellow and blue makes green scenario. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading, like you see the and sign between Rohrer and Klingner is a bit darker. The A is a little bit darker in the Verdura. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, light shading, where quick is like a mid-tone to a lighter to a mid-tone. The is much darker than what's around it. Over goes light to dark, 2 seconds to dry. Medium is the darkest tone on the page with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation, and there is some there. I just don't think it was that great, and the medium shows some, but we really saw none. Not the best paper for this ink, in my opinion. Smear test says you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I am surprised by how well this ink performed when it got highlighted. I really was expecting a full blowout, and that did not occur at all. It makes me feel safe using it as a note taker. Now, that's not just from the chromatography, but look at this water spot. With only 30 seconds on the page, it completely removed that ink. So as you would expect, it only took water to get it out of my pen, and it did. The pen flesh does everything that water does because you can't do more than remove all of it. And the bleach, you're not going to need it, but it also completely removes it. The next writing sample is done on Nimacine paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread halo sheen. It does offer some spots of shading, like the H and the R in Rohrer are a little bit darker. The N in Klingner, a little bit darker. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub. With no feather spread halo sheen, the shading is not too bad. Over goes light to dark. The is a very dark word, where lazy goes darker to lighter. Quick goes dark to light to dark, and 3 seconds to dry. Medium, still darkest tone on the page. No feathers spread, halo sheen, spots of shading, like jumps, starts light on the J and then gets dark. The W of brown is lighter than the rest of the word, but not a whole lot other than that. 9 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both does show some color variation, but it comes through much better with the extra fine. And the smear test, I don't think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Rohrer and Klingner Verdura has a viscosity of 2.13, making it normal. If you're interested in how the viscosity tests and all that stuff's done, then down in the description is a link to that video. Now, let's take a look at the next writing sample done on a memoranda pad like I would have used in the Marines. No bleeding, no ghosting. The medium has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a bit lighter, quite a bit lighter than the medium, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows some color variation, but it's not coming through. In the smear test, you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. Rohrer and Klingner Verdura has an average dry time of 9 seconds, making this a very fast drying ink. The last writing sample is done on 20-pound copy paper. Now, this is some heavy bleeding that's going on, but it is not coming through with the medium here. The extra fine has a ton of spots that are really spotting quite heavily, but again, not all the way through the paper. There's good and bad news here. You can't use the back of the page because you'll ruin the information on both sides, but you're not ruining the page underneath. Now, the medium has feathering, has spread, has no halo, no sheen, no shade. All I'm going to say is it has feathering because it has complete feathering. The extra fine is lighter than the stub. It has very minor feathering only in a few spots. The K of quick, the W of brown, but not really very much. The G of dog. Very, very well performing here on such cheap paper. Minor spread, as it went from an extra fine to about a fine. No halo, no sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation, and we're not getting it. In the smear test, you could recover it because you can't smear it. Instead of finding inks that look like Rohrer and Klingner Verdura, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice red from Herbin, Rouge, Bourgogne, or Bourgogne, if you prefer. So what do I think of Rohrer and Klingner Verdura? For people who like changing inks frequently, I can see this in the rotation. It shades very nicely and cleans out very easily. It's not my favorite green, but honestly, it's the variety of greens that make my top choices so nice. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? While I think it frequently looks good in just about every pen, I really do prefer it from a medium flow broad. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at pen BBS number 132.